Oh, check marks across the board. Looks like we are live.
Nice.
Excellent. And we might as well get into it. Let me just get some stuff sorted here on my screen so I can see what I can see. All right. Walmart and Amazon are thinking of launching their own stablecoin. Stablecoins and meme coins seem to be a thing everyone's doing. There's potentially a Trump coin coming out. You know, Elon Musk has done a bunch of stuff with crypto tokens. But now Amazon and Walmart are stepping in with a stablecoin initiative trying to disrupt the payments landscape. What's happening here, John?
Yeah, so obviously this makes sense. So for those of you that don't know, there's on average credit card interchange fees in the US are about 1.97 for Visa, 1.79 for MasterCard, and I think Amex is like 3.15 or it's ridiculous per transaction. And so Walmart and Amazon, they're exploring creating their own, let's call them digital dollars for now, just to make it easy so people to understand. And it could maybe revolutionize how we pay for things, but it also could complicate things if everyone has their own stable coin. So think of the stable coin like their own digital gift cards, but they actually work like real dollars. So they can be sent instantly over the internet without going through traditional banks. Now, this is great for people who use their debit cards, kind of thing, to spend. But for people that use credit cards and put things on credit, we're going to have to figure out what that solution looks like. But why does this matter, right? Is every time you swipe your credit card, and this is mostly talking about credit cards though, all these retailers have to pay fees. So for giants like Walmart and Amazon, this is billions of dollars annually that they're paying out. So if they create their own digital payment systems, they could potentially eliminate these fees and save massive amounts of money. Now, the catalyst for all of this is that the US Senate just recently passed the Genius Act, which creates the first ever regulatory framework for stablecoins, giving companies like Walmart and Amazon the legal clarity they need to move forward. What are your thoughts on this, Craig? Do you think stablecoins are going to replace credit cards? I don't think so.
I like the overall concept, but how long have we been talking about decentralizing currency?
Yeah.
Helping funding the debanked and all that stuff. But we come along to an interesting place where it's just too expensive. Traditional banking, MasterCard, Visa institutions have you locked in, and then the companies get a fee and they charge that on top of you. And say maybe you're not Walmart, let's just say you're a regular person and you're taking payments through PayPal or Stripe or whatever, they take their other percentages on top of that, and it really starts to add up, and
Yeah.
you want to start looking for a new solution. It's kind of like why people went they cut the cord. They went cordless or whatever you want to call it, for cutting the cable and not having cable as much anymore, because it made more sense for them to focus on just the content they wanted, and they didn't want to pay all these absorbent fees. Now it's changed where there's so many different streaming services, for example, rather than Netflix just having everything, that it's harder, and as they get distributed and it's harder for you to have your content, and more it costs more, people will start to pirate more, you know so because it costs more, so people are looking for alternative methods. And I this isn't like
Hmm.
pirating, but it is like, hey, we're getting gouged, we're getting high percentages on these transactions, and we pay billions of dollars in fees. What would an alternative system look like, and why wouldn't we invest a few hundred million in a new system to replace our $1 billion in fees?
Exactly. Right. But again, people buy things on credit, and that's why they use credit cards, right? Because then they don't have to pay it right away. With
Yes.
stable coins, you have to have the money to pay for it.
Well, that's not necessarily true. I mean, the transaction happens at a stable coin level, so there's no bank involved with the transaction.
Yeah,
So, but doesn't mean that the lending institution doesn't, whatever that is, that or Amazon or Walmart don't have their own credit institution that allows for these stable coins to be transferred.
that's true. Yeah,
So we don't know the system for which they're
yeah,
putting this in
exactly. Yeah,
because let's face it, we've been part of the crypto community for a long time.
yeah.
I used to run the cryptocurrency conference. We did monthly events. I had like 10 summits and conferences back in like 2019. And, it's been years since then. Still, people were bragging about how you can buy anything with crypto at the time and it was becoming commonplace and everyone's doing it. How many people do you know that are actively using it in their day-to-day life, not trading, not this, that, but using it?
Very few. Only those that are heavily in the. But again, this is the natural progression because there's not the infrastructure. I know that when I went to Futurist, they had, can't remember what coin they were using, but you could pay for things with a certain coin, right? And so the problem is we haven't had the widespread adoption yet, which is why it's a niche market right now. But because since this bill got passed, the Genius Act got passed, like even BlackRock a few years ago didn't have any investment in crypto, and now look at how much they have invested in crypto, right? So things are changing, things are growing. Not as fast as probably a lot of people would like or as we would have thought, but um, it's getting there.
Yeah, Amazon's 447 billion in global e-commerce sales would benefit enormously from stable coin driven cost savings, but the consumer's not ready to deal with the complexity, so it has to be hidden.
Yeah, yeah,
So it has to be an Amazon card, a Starbucks card or whatever that you just use and you refill, or that's attached to a bank account that just grabs it from your bank and goes, and there's no actual credit card fees or whatever that but they have to do the invisible technology. If you've got to constantly be saying, okay, I got to balance my streams, I got to convert this coin to that coin, it's changing so rapidly, how do I got to get it out, right? Because usually, it's great to have stuff in stable coins, but you usually, because only a few people take them, you
exactly.
want them out into cash at some point.
Yeah,
So that means you have to convert it into something else usually to get it out. So that's what I mean. They have to build that background mechanism that uncomplicates these things for the consumer, or nothing happens. So if they can build a credit card like system that you just get the Walmart card that's hooked up to your stablecoin account and you just fill it up whenever, or it's attached to your bank account and it just actually does the transfers because it's Walmart on the back end, then maybe you got something. But we have to figure out
yeah,
how that whole process is happening. What is the mechanism? Are we going to be building a new Visa slash MasterCard company that does all that on the back end for people? Because that's probably a fantastic opportunity.
yeah,
So we'll have to see. And at the same time, people don't want everything in one. They don't want to say, okay, I got to go put money on my Amazon account, and I got to go put money on my Walmart account, and then I got to go put money on my Starbucks account, and then I got to go put money on, I don't need 10 accounts. We want one, you
yeah.
know, or,
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like I hope that this doesn't like there I hope that we're able to find a common ground. But at the same time, it makes sense that these companies would want their own so that they're going to reap the benefits of having their own stable coins, right? As opposed to um it's like a rewards like Aeroplan or Air Miles, right?
yeah, and interchange fees in the US total approximately $32 billion annually for merchants. So it's a chunk of change that 2 to 3% takes.
Yeah.
32 billion in the US. So, being able to um try figure that out. The Genius Act includes one-to-one fiat banking, audit, compliance, and consumer protection rules. The stablecoin pilot programs are expected within 6 to 12 months of legislative clarity. So I guess they're still going back and forth on what does this mean specifically? What does this mean? And so, whenever there's this new kind of movement stuff, there's legalities need to be worked out. If you ever worked in a highly regulated field or something like this, where they just, the rules weren't set yet, but you're working with companies that are working with the regulators and things change. So generally, if you're open and honest and you document everything, if things change, they give you the breathing room to switch, because we've been working on this and then you decide to go different. Great. Now give me, whatever to switch. But it takes a while for this stuff to get worked out.
Oh, it does.
So I'm going to think it's going to be several years, just me personally, for legislative clarity. What do you think?
Absolutely. Yeah. And speaking of years, I don't know if you remember back in 2019, Zuckbucks in Facebook. It wasn't called Zuckbucks, but it was dubbed Libra. Whatever happened to that? I know it didn't work out. They abandoned the project, but I'm just curious, because it was huge one day and then gone the next, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, and again, no one wants 100 different stable coins. Right. Yeah. So they want the American coin, the Canadian coin, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
That's matched to our currency. Don't get me started and say, oh, I'm anti-American, anti-Canadian. I'm just saying we want something tied to the Canadian currency, call it what you want, that you can use anywhere.
Yeah.
It's like when you go to the CNE and you can get those CNE bucks that you can spend in a certain place, but most places don't take them. So, or you go to a festival, and a lot of times that used to be the case, but now they've changed it a little bit. But you can buy bucks there and use them there, but most places don't take them when they can't use that out of the park. And you're like, okay, why would I lock myself in? I have $100 cash that I can spend anywhere, but now you're saying I got to put $25 on Walmart and $25 on Amazon and $25 on Starbucks. But if I want to buy $50 something over here, I don't have enough money now because I spread it around everywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just, but I mean, I love where this is going, because I think, at least I believe, the banking industry is due for disruption.
Yeah. And again, this is less about cryptocurrency and it's more about payment infrastructure catching up to the internet age, in my opinion.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is when things get serious. This is when big money starts to say, hey, let's build a crypto infrastructure for the average consumer to wipe out $32 billion of expenses in our industry. People will spend money, and this will actually start to happen. Like before, it was hobbyists. Before, it wasn't big industry. They were kind of anti this. But now that there's big money behind it, I think we're going to start to see consolidation and forward moving.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. Yeah.
So let us know what you think. Do you think these Amazon and Walmart stable coins are the future? You think there's going to be one coin? Do you think it's another crypto dream and you're going to stick to your Ethereum or Bitcoin? Let us know what you think in the comments. You ready?
Yeah.
The landscape of digital security is rapidly changing. Recent breakthroughs in quantum computing have created new challenges for traditional encryption methods. And we've talked about this for a while, but now we've got some facts here. The shift has introduced what experts call the quantum encryption threat, the growing risk that quantum computing poses to current encryption protocols like RSA. And now we're hearing that the Chinese have a quantum computer that can break RSA. What's going on here, John?
Yeah, apparently. So before you start ringing the alarms and start worrying about everything, the Chinese team only cracked a 22-bit key. So let me put that into reality for you. That's like picking a 3-digit lock, okay? So real-world encryption using RSA uses 2048-bit keys, which is the equivalent to a 600-digit lock. The difference is astronomical, but it's very significant because they've proved the concept works. And so they've got a path forward. So they use a quantum computer to break the RSA encryption. And so that's essentially what they did. For those of you that don't know what RSA encryption, it's like a digital lock, protects everything. It protects your bank account, government secrets. It's used widely. Now, the security itself, it relies on a mathematical problem so hard that it would take classical computers thousands of years to solve. However, quantum computers work very differently. So they can theoretically solve these problems exponentially faster using an algorithm called Shor's algorithm. So the achievement, yes, it does, I would say, accelerate the timeline for QD, right? Or quantum D, which is the moment where quantum computers become powerful enough to break encryption. From everything I've read, experts now estimate that this could happen anywhere between 2030 to 2040. Now, don't have to worry because they're already working on, we've covered this many times, there's a bunch of different quantum proof encryption and algorithms that are being developed. And things will be changed over before that time. But what are your thoughts on this, Craig?
Hang on. Sorry about that. I want to put in perspective, like we've been talking about this for a while about when quantum's going to break all the existing encryption and what post-quantum encryption might look like. As we've seen a few examples, and we've been talking about RSA, and we've been talking about like Bitcoin and cryptocurrency encryption. So, it's all on the chopping block. This shows that it's possible. We're limited by today's hardware, but what it's done is shifted the industry and saying, we have 50 years left of RSA encryption to, we've got 20 years left of RSA encryption. So they have to either up the keys, like you were saying, or build some new post-quantum encryption in the next 20 years. So that's really accelerated the industry towards what's going to happen here. We need to invest heavily to get this replaced because RSA runs the internet. Let's face it.
Yeah. Well, RSA encrypts the internet. Yeah.
RSA runs the internet, but like you're not doing business on the internet without RSA.
Yeah.
So you're not hiding your identity on the internet without RSA.
Yeah. The other scary part about this is beyond RSA is that they also applied the same method to substitution permutation networks, SPN ciphers, such as present and rectangle. And they are saying that it's the first time that a real quantum computer has posed a substantial threat to multiple full-scale structured algorithms in use today. So it is scary, but still a ways away, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a ways away. This algorithm is still the best, apparently. We're still limited by the number of qubits and how long our current quantum computing can hold a session before it errors out. And so, but it's happening, and we're seeing more and more threats. And again, this is just one model that we're aware of, right?
Yeah.
So the threat timeline has compressed significantly, like I mentioned, that quantum computers capable of breaking RSA 2048 won't emerge for approximately another 20 years or so. They say it's gone from 50 to 30, and other articles I've seen it's gone from 50 to 20. So it depends on who you talk to and what specifically. So it changes all that. And with that, we really have to get something in place because, it doesn't seem like there's a standard solution today.
Yeah. Now, the scariest part to this, though, is that there's this strategy that's called harvest now, decrypt later. That is what I would say is the most immediate concern, because these hacks are happening, and these hackers are getting gigabytes, even terabytes of encrypted data that they're just going to keep until they can decrypt it. So that's something to worry about. But who knows? Yeah, it's It's one step forward for quantum computing, one step backward for encryption.
Yeah, and the future of cybersecurity hinges on adopting post-quantum cryptography standards earlier than expected. And post-quantum encryption is no longer optional for high-risk sectors like finance and government. They have to do this. So, and multiple quantum computing models will simultaneously attack different vulnerabilities in the current system. And hybrid encryption provides a pragmatic bridge between today's protections and tomorrow's risks. But when you use hybrid, there's usually leakage, side channels, all that kind of stuff to get to versus a pure encryption. That's something when you use hybrid. So we'll have to see. I'm curious to see what the next stage of encryption is going to be. And with this kind of stuff coming out, we're going to start seeing things competing for standards in the public space within the next 5 years.
Yeah. Like, again, this is a proof of concept breakthrough, not an immediate threat. Okay. So they picked a 3-digit lock, whereas real security uses a 600-digit lock. So there's a huge gap there. And we've got a lot of time to bridge that gap.
Yeah, but I mean, we have a lot of time to bridge that gap, but it's not a lot of time in how the industry moves to adopt standards and gets it across. How long is it going to take everybody to flip to a new encryption standard across the internet worldwide, as an example? That's going to take years. So,
well, what if not unless there's some urgency? I think they'll flip pretty quickly.
That's what I mean by the fire's there, but the point is, how long has it taken us, and we haven't yet gone to IP6?
Yeah, well, that's because IP6 is just complex, and it's not needed yet. It's not urgent.
I'm just saying, how many years has it been out there?
Yeah, but it's not urgent. If your data's
urgent at the time, we're all going to run out of IP address. We got to do it, create it. I got to move forward to it. And now it was like, yeah, okay, whatever. That's my point being is that unless there's a real need, people don't want to do this. And you think about all the cash registers, all the POS systems, there's millions and millions of computers that need to be updated. We're not talking about, a software update. We're talking about, millions and millions of computers across the internet in all sorts of shapes and forms that will need to be updated for this. So it's going to take a while, and the solution has to be, standardized before people will jump to it. But I think we're going to see that 20-year timeline shrink because this is where we are now. But where are we going to be in 5 years, and what are we going to be breaking? And people say, oh, that 20 years is now 5 years. We got to start doing something.
Yeah.
So let us know what you think around quantum and encryption and where we're going. Should we start to worry about this? Should we be looking at other standards? Should we be worrying about harvest now and decrypt later techniques that people are having? Give us your thoughts. So we've talked about drone swarms before and different types of the hummingbird drone and micro drones, but now we've really taken it to a different level. China has developed mosquito-sized drones for covert military operations. These micro drones are inspired by natural insect forms and are controlled via smartphone apps. The technology represents years of interdisciplinary research in micro devices, material science, and bionics. These drones offer significant advantage in stealth, reconnaissance, and battlefield applications. China's advancements position it at the forefront of micro drone technology globally. Are we way behind now on this? I'm really concerned about the future of this if they're that far ahead. What's going on here, John?
Yeah, I think they are. So they've unveiled a military drone that's about 2 centimeters long and weighs about 0.3 grams. So it is absolutely insane. So the tiny bionic robot has flapping wings like a real insect and can fly around undetected. It also can carry cameras and sensors for surveillance missions, which sounds like science fiction, but this is a huge advancement in technology. And it can change how surveillance and reconnaissance work. Now, this is catching up to the movies. The movies have had these in them for years, but this is a huge breakthrough in microrobotics. And they had to solve a lot of extraordinary engineering challenges. And so, to get into the details, the device features, I don't know if there's pictures of it, but it features two leaf like wings that are attached to a stick shaped body with three hair thin legs for perching and landing. So the flapping wing design apparently mimics biological flight mechanics with wings that beat rapidly to generate lift, similar to how insects fly. So the integration of power systems, control circuits, sensors, and communication modules into such a minuscule frame required ridiculous miniaturization, and they had to do that without sacrificing functionality. So apparently the surveillance capabilities include high resolution imaging, audio recording, and potentially electronic signal interception, which is crazy for such a small thing. There we go. What are your thoughts on this, Craig? That's crazy.
I didn't get enough technical information, but it looked like from a range and flight and longevity point of view, but it seems to be an interesting product. The micro drones can perch on ceilings and walls for extended surveillance without detection, so they only need the flight time for a limited time, then they can just sit there. Real-time intelligence transmissions allow for fast, low-risk decision-making in battlefield scenarios. It's quite a bit smaller than the NATO deployed Black Hornet, which is much bigger. It outperforms many operational Western models in concealment. Biomimetic engineering enhances camouflage by imitating insect shape, size, motion, and dynamic. So this is interesting. This is, every, sci-fi thing where you got the little drone or the bee or whatever seeing stuff, but it is limited by battery life on a bunch of things. So it's a question of what you really can get for how long.
Yeah. Well, just to kind of put things into perspective, the Black Hornet 4, which apparently was a great technology too. It measures 16 centimeters and weighs 18 grams and provides 25 minutes of flight. So I'm curious to know how long these things last in the air. Now, it's obviously it's a lot. It weighs a lot less, but it's also a lot smaller, right? So.
Yeah, and here's an image of the Black 4 Hornet. The Black Hornet 4 nano drone. So it looks quite a bit different. And you can see a few of them here. And look at the size difference. This is one in his hand. In the hand.
Yeah.
As compared to what we were just looking at.
Which was between the, yeah.
So, it's quite a bit different. And it's quite impressive. Drone assist room-to-room surveillance, provide real-time intelligence for urban combat situation. Border security include infiltration and tracking and smuggling detection without alerting targets. Civilian applications like wildlife monitoring and pollution tracking could follow military use. Mesh communications network may allow drone swarms for large-scale coordinated operations. Like, this is very, very interesting, very scary. And when we relate it to Operation Spiderweb that recently happened in the Ukraine, where they used those drones to attack, where's the limit? What size can you weaponize these things to actually do damage? Never mind just surveillance.
Exactly. Yeah.
So this is cool, really cool. And it's going to ideally advance our drone technology as a whole across the board, because it floats downhill. But I don't know what that means, and I don't know what it means from a consumer point of view, and it's scary from a military point of view.
It is. Yeah.
Any final thoughts on this?
No, there's not much more that we can talk about because there's not much as far as technical details in this. So maybe we'll do a follow up once if we get more technical details.
Yeah, and the Black Hornet 4, it has improved battery life and weather resistance. The Mosquito drone in China is still in prototype demonstration phase, so they're not, it's not product ready as far as we know.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see. Check out the TorontoStarts.com website on this. Could we do a deep dive on the comparisons and where we are and integration challenges and whatnot. I really love the micro drone technology. This starts to scare me a bit, though. Let us know what you think on the future of drones and whether this is cool or scary. And have you seen other articles that we should be even more concerned about? All right. You love talking about GPS technology, so let's talk about this diamond magnetometer.
Yeah.
It represents a breakthrough in quantum sensing technology that is transforming how we measure and map magnetic fields. At the heart of this revolution lies the nitrogen vacancy center in diamond crystals, which enables these quantum magnetometers to detect the magnetic fields with extraordinary precision. These advanced sensors provide unprecedented magnetic field mapping accuracy, operating at a sensitivity level that were previously impossible to achieve in compact devices. So, what does this mean for the industry, John, and why do we care?
Yeah, so this is cool because this is they're using synthetic diamonds that could replace GPS in any situation, but especially situations where satellite signals are blocked or jammed. So it's a tiny diamond chip that can sense the Earth's invisible magnetic field patterns and use them like a fingerprint to determine your exact location without needing any satellites at all. Because GPS, for those of you that don't know, need satellites in order to determine location. So how it works, just dive into it real quickly. The Earth has a magnetic field. Surprise? Maybe not. It's like a giant invisible magnet. Think of it like that. So the field varies slightly from place to place due to underground minerals, rock formations, a bunch of different things. And these variations create essentially unique magnetic fingerprints for different locations. So the diamond magnetometer, it acts like an ultra-sensitive magnet compass that can detect these tiny variations and match them to magnetic maps to pinpoint your location. So why does this matter, right? So this is great because this you don't need super cooling like what we had covered in other satelliteless GPS potential solutions. So it could enable navigation underwater, deep canyons, inside buildings, underground, where GPS signals are jammed. So there's a lot of use cases for this. Now, the breakthrough lies in using, and I don't know much about this, but it's a nitrogen vacancy or NV centers in a synthetic diamond. So these are atomic scale defects where a carbon atom is replaced by a nitrogen atom with an adjacent vacant space in the diamond's crystal lattice. This creates a quantum system that's extraordinarily sensitive to magnetic fields. So really cool. Do you think, Craig, that this is a technology that's closer to commercialization than other GPS technologies that we've covered?
This definitely seems, even though with the name Diamond in there, it seems more inexpensive and easier to deploy than a lot of the other. Like, if I remember correctly, and you can correct me wrong, we talked about the quantum GPS, and I thought it had several lasers pointed at a centimeter size device to determine micro sensitivity movements. If that what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems like just on the surface, we don't have costing. That seems way more expensive than what's going on here.
Yes, for sure. And this seems way more feasible. I think they had to super cool the other thing too. So it doesn't apparently doesn't have to be super cooled. I don't think, but it does use green laser light um, and emit red light that varies in intensity based on the surrounding magnetic field strength. So this one still does use lasers, but it doesn't seem as complex to develop further.
Yeah, and manufacturing scales from 2-inch to 4-inch wafers to boost industrial adoption of the diamond sensors. So I think quantum magnetometers allow for reduced operational calls via fewer recalibrations and maintenance needs. Um, you talked about this before, and I don't remember the number, and maybe you do. How much is lost in shipping because of bad GPS? Are we losing stuff every year?
Oh, I think it was it in the billions or
It
hundreds of millions?
It was definitely in the billions, and that's why, like, when we think, like, the average consumer is like, "Okay, great. I like a little bit better GPS when I'm driving downtown Toronto or in heavy buildings because bounce off Billy doesn't quite know where I am, but other than that, it's generally good enough. Why do we need this?" And we sit back and say, "Okay, we need this because of all the things you mentioned," right? You
Yes.
mentioned, the technical high temperature environments, high pressure conditions, corrosive atmospheres, um advanced geological surveillance, underground studies, like all the things, which is great. And being able to do this more accurately at a significantly reduced cost is really going to boost the industry. So I do believe this is going to be adopted faster than the other ones.
I think so. Yeah.
Biomedical applications benefit from non-invasive, high-resolution, and brain nerve activity monitoring, as an example. Um, so we start looking at some of the applications for the magnetometer in this is outside of GPS as well. It's amazing. I love what the accuracy. The magnetic navigation may soon rival GPS thanks to real-time magnetic field mapping systems. So you'll be able to put this potentially in your phones and whatnot,
Yeah.
and not necessarily have to talk to satellites anymore.
My question is, if this relies on the Earth's magnetic field, right? What happens if the magnetic field reverses? Will they have to just recalibrate or redevelop a whole new chip?
I assume this is how it's going to work. It's all going to be just like you have GPS maps, or used to.
Yeah.
Back in the day when everything wasn't connected, you'd have to download the maps for where you were going and whatnot. But now it just gets them automatically. That it would be eye in the sky that just downloads your updates when you get in that are relevant to your area, and then overall to the world, depending where you are.
Yeah.
So, when it shifts, it'll shift, but they do, because they do shift. But I think the whole point is that there are systems and networks out there. As soon as you deploy these systems, millions of them across the world that can communicate with a mother system, now you're tracking it. You can sense the micro shifts. You can update the database. It's just like how Waze and now Google, I guess, tracks drivers in your car, how fast they're going, where the slowdowns are, and where they're not, and
Yeah.
changes your route. It's the same thing for this type of thing. Where as you sense the differences in your phones or whatever your sensors out there, it'll update those maps accordingly.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I think this is really cool. I love new technology around GPS
Yeah.
and knowing where we are. And it has, diamond magnometers offer several advantages: extended operation without satellite dependency, reliable performance in challenging environments, autonomous navigation in GPS denied scenarios, and consistent accuracy regardless of location. So
Mhm.
single chip design eliminates multiple components, native vector measurements capability, simple calibration procedures, and low maintenance requirements. Solid state construction with no moving parts, resistant to shock and vibration, long operation lifetime, and minimal drift over time. So all of those things lead to we're going to see something soon, and it looks like something we should be implementing.
Yeah, the military, like there's a whole bunch of different militaries developing it. DARPA, U.S. Air Force, MIT, like NIST, like there's a whole bunch. Honeywell, so they're all working on something similar. So something something we'll get to market sooner rather than later.
And it sounds like something they could use on Mars for sure. Elon
Yes.
Musk and his team when they go. All
Yeah.
right. Let us know what you think about this. We'd love to hear back from you. Well, Google's in trouble again. And though I put this story up, not because it's Google, it's just funny to see EU and other the FTC and whatever suing Google over and over again. I guess they're making them an example for the rest of the industry. So let's jump into it. AI overviews. The EU has filed antitrust complaints and legal against Google's AI overviews that stop people from clicking through the website because they get their answer right away. What's going on here, John?
Yeah. And this hits home because I do this 90% of the time now. So for those of you that don't know, it's when you search for something on Google now, you pretty much now almost every time you'll see a box at the top with an AI generated summary of the answer. Now, it's not always right, it's not always accurate, but it's there. And so the summary, it's created by Google's AI analyzing content from various websites, including news sites and publishers, and then creating the summary. So the problem is, and I'm a huge proponent, not a huge proponent, but I'm guilty of this. They'll get their answers from the summary box and never click through to the original source. Now I'm starting to click through a lot more often because I'm starting to see that as I'm fact checking it, it's not the most accurate. But for those that aren't fact checking, that are just using it, this is a huge problem. And it's essentially about the fundamental economics of the internet, because publishers make money from people visiting their websites, either through advertising, subscriptions, or other revenue streams. And so if Google's AI provides the answers directly without sending users to publishers' sites, well, what's going to happen? So I think this is a very critical and valuable battle that's happening. And I think it's very relevant.
Yeah, so on July 4th, the Independent Publishers Alliance filed their complaint, targeting both the European Commission and UK competitors and market authority. These publishers represent the backbone of independent journalism and content creation in the UK. They're united to challenge what they see as Google's unfair advantage in the digital marketplace. Now, I laugh a little when I say Google's just been made example of, because they just got told they have to sell Chrome. And so, we'll have to see what's happening there. But in the last month, how many new browsers have you seen launch? I've seen at least 10.
Yeah.
At least 10. And these have to do with AI based. So just as there's competition coming out to crush Google Chrome, Google has to sell Chrome. All right. It's just interesting. And now we say, okay, AI summaries. Well, Perplexity, OpenAI, every search engine's doing them. Every AI platform is doing them. So is this the thin piece of the wedge that says, okay, as soon as we get something from Google around this, we're going to get something from everyone else? And this is again why I mentioned earlier offline, a Cloudflare CEO was talking about how they're going to do their best to stop bot traffic from scraping these sites. So if you've got scrapers or bots doing stuff, it's going to be harder and harder for you to get through. Now, I don't know what it means for AI browsers. I don't know what it means for all these other technologies out there, but I know that everyone's going to be involved in how this turns out. So I'm of two minds. Like, if you can scrape, if it's publicly available on the internet, why can I not go download it and use it as my own thing? Like, when I say download, use it as my own thing, I mean, okay, your article's out there. I'm going to go get 20 different articles, research them all together and put as much information as I can into a paper. Like, wouldn't people do that?
Yeah. Well, this is different than like using an AI and saying, what are the best websites for whatever. This is different than that, because then that's actually providing you with websites and it's providing you with links. And I think that's where we're going with this, as far as I don't think the AI summaries are good. I don't think they're good at all. I think that A curated list is better, and there are new strategies on how to get into those curated lists and things like that. But I think I don't think these AI summaries are the future, and I'm glad that they are. I'm glad that they are going after this, because that is 100% unfair. They're taking away from the publishers, from the websites, and just kind of creating their own summary with that is not always accurate, and that's the problem.
So I think what we get into was what is fair use. I get that what's happening is people aren't clicking through to the sources, and I get that. I run several websites, and though my SEO is working great, and I get, on TorontoStarts.com, we get over 240,000 impressions a month. The click throughs aren't as high as you would expect. So it's just because, guess what? AI summaries, they get the information and off they go, right? So what does that mean? What is fair use? I publish my information so people can see it, but as, say, New York Times, or as a university, or as an educator, you're publishing your information so people come to your site. And as you said, it's the economy of the web. You come to my site, that's traffic I can either add or monetize, or I can sell you something. But if you never come to my site, those options don't exist.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. I don't think Google's stupid. I think they have a larger strategy in mind with these AI summaries that they're just not sharing. I think that they have this that we can't see. I think that's what they have, and I don't know what it is.
Yeah, and again, they're all doing this. So, Google just happens to be the number one search engine, right? And let's face it, people, when they're searching, most people are looking for an answer to a question. Some people are looking for not necessarily answers to questions. I'm looking for specific sites to go and get information I need. I don't necessarily want the AI to answer it for all sorts of reasons, because I want to look at the features of a product and compare the two myself to find out, what's the difference. I could ask AI and say, what's the difference between these products? But if I don't know they exist and I don't go search them myself, how do I know those things, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So there is a disconnect between what Google, the search companies, and the AI companies. Again, they're all doing it. OpenAI is doing it. Perplexity is doing it. Claude's doing it. They're all searching the internet and coming back with answers.
Yeah.
Some of them, provide you links, and you can go look at those answers
Yeah.
or where those sources are. But if they get the answers and you don't get the traffic, you don't get the membership, what has to change? What are the rules? Let's say I can no longer use any information from your website without what? It's publicly available. I can go. So if I read it and then do something with it, that's okay, because I went to your website. But if I have a bot grab the information off your website because it follows an RSS feed and then potentially scrapes it, grabs it, injects it in a newsletter, and ends up with a link back to your site. But that whole process is automated and is bot traffic, and you don't want that. So, the idea of how the internet works is going to be changing.
Yeah. Well, we're witnessing what could be the largest content appropriation in internet history, right?
Of course, yes.
And it's not about fair competition. It's more about coercion, because publishers are facing an impossible choice. Let Google use your content, or train its AI, or become invisible to search. And it's absolutely crazy. It's scary. Yeah, absolutely scary. Let's hope. I'm hoping that these new AI platforms will change the landscape and take things away from Google search. That's my hope.
Yeah, and so the complaint is that there's no opt-out mechanism. And the problem, again, with opt-out mechanisms is, great, now no one can find you. So what do you do there, right?
Yeah.
So it is you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. And we did a episode where we talked about Google doing that test in the EU, and we talk about Google not being stupid. They knew this was coming. Google did a test in the EU about they disconnected all those news sources, remember? And then
Yeah.
they lost less than 1% or maybe 1.4% of their traffic or something. And they said it had no significant impact on their business. So
Exactly.
they've already fired back preemptively around this. So
Yeah.
the negotiation has started. Where do you think the negotiation is going to go?
I don't know. I honestly, I think Google's going to stand its ground, 100%. Because they're losing ground on search because of AI. So they need a way to draw people into search. And so these AI summaries are the way to get people to use Google search.
Yeah, everybody, that's John tapping on his desk, making that noise every time he's
Sorry.
That's all right. I just wanted to mention it because it gets worse at the end of the episode. You're trying to make your point. Yeah, so we'll have to see. Of course, they're going to stand their ground because it's their business. So search and monetizing search is their business, and if they can't have ads and click throughs and get the eyeballs that people want, then they have a problem.
Yeah,
and businesses have a problem if they're not getting the eyes that they want. So the world is switching models from an SEO model to an what is it called, AIEO model, where they're trying to get AI engine optimization, where your company, your brand stands out in OpenAI, in all the different AI engines. So where people are Googling you or searching for stuff, you prop to the surface as a result of that. So there's a whole process going on, whereas people convert from SEO to this AI EO. And it's a brave new world. And it's to be interesting to see where we go with that and what happens. I think the world is going to change, and I'll throw another political thing in there. We've had we're here in Canada, and Carney just got rid of that digital services tax they put on not too long ago to tax the U.S. Digital services companies. So if the EU goes after U.S. companies with this kind of thing, what is the government going to do in response? So I'm just wanted to throw that out there because it's an unknown, right? To say, wait a minute, okay, that's another tariff you're applying on us. So here we go. So I think this is multi-layered, and we'll have to see where this goes. And I think everybody on all sides has a point. Like, it's public information. People are asking me questions. We search, crawl, whatever, all these sites. Is that now illegal? Are we going to have to make rules around that? And then you say, okay, if you like crawling sites, get out there now and crawl as much as you can, because eventually they're going to stop that. And I think that's what Cloudflare is doing.
Yeah. So. We'll see. Like, there's the CAPTCHAs. Like the CAPTCHAs, they tried to stop it with a whole bunch of different things. Nothing works long term yet.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. I do some web scraping for some stuff I do. I don't do a lot of it, but I scrape different articles when I'm researching stuff for this. So say, okay, go out, hey Google, hey Perplexity, go out and search on what's going on with this EU versus AI Google summary. So we'll search multiple articles and come back with a bunch of information so we can put together, understand what's happening here. And I want to continue to do those things. So, what happens? What does that mean? Where is the revenue going to go? And are there new revenue models on the horizon? As search dominance is changing, as we see more and more searches are happening off of Google, and that's going to switch. So I'm loving watching this. I'm interested to see what the business models will be. I know a lot of people are on different sides of this. If you're financially impacted, you're definitely on the, hey, Google, F off, and start sending people back to my site point of view.
Sure.
But the world is changing. So I'm happy these lawsuits are happening, because we can't let tech companies just do whatever they want. And we need some rules and regulations around business. They can't, flip a switch overnight and all of a sudden everyone business stop because they're no longer linking. They are the source of news or information for everything. So be interesting to see what they do. I am interested. I'm glad this is happening at a level. I don't usually like a lot of government involvement, but at the same time, we've seen a lot of crap with TOS, terms of service, and these kinds of things where it looks like maybe they should get involved because these tactics aren't great, and we need some rules and some people talking about it so the internet can move forward in a safe and economic way.
Yeah.
So we'd love to hear what you think about this. Put your comments and whatnot in below. So what do you got going on, John?
Oh, I don't even know when this is coming out. So September?
No, this will probably come out. We're only a couple of weeks ahead now, so it'll probably come out late July. So if this isn't come before July 22nd, we have a July 22nd Flowgrammer meetup featuring Superbase. Going to be great. I think you're presenting at that. I'm presenting that. We've got a couple of other people lined up. The swag from Superbase has been sent, so it's on its way.
Awesome.
I don't know what that is, but we'll see when it arrives. So, and in August, we'll be doing another Flowgrammer event. I haven't picked the date and whatnot yet. And we'll be back at Startup Investor Drinks in September. But
nice.
What do you got going on? I saw something where you're presenting.
Oh, yeah. This will be passed. Yeah. I will have presented on government funding. And if you have any questions on government funding, reach out to me on LinkedIn, John Irwin.
Fantastic. For everything else, check out torontostarts.com or flowgrammer.ca for business and AI automation. We'd love to hear from you. If you're looking to automate stuff in your business, go over to flowgrammer.ca. Find out our events in Toronto where we do our local meetup events. We're going to start some online stuff, some inner circle stuff coming soon. But check out everything going on over there for business automation. Book a free call if you like. And for everything else, for our startup community, go check out torontostarts.com. Thanks, everyone, for watching and listening.
Thanks, everyone.